Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm doing a review of Doctor Who and the Silurians. You've got John Pertwee there, as well as a Silurian in the middle, Earth in the background, and then that sort of dinosaur sort of creature. John Pertwee years 1970-74, BBC, DVD, Doctor Who, and all that. And then on the spine you've got 2 Entertainment, BBC, Doctor Who, a sort of bubble thing with John there, and then and the Silurians. And then on the back you've got the strip of different screenshots from the episode, as well as a bio on the episode, who wrote it, starring John Pertwee, and then all the special features, as well as all the legal guff. On the inside you've got the writer's notes, pamphlet type thing, as well as 2 discs, which all 7 parts, or the first 4 parts are on that disc, and then the next 3 parts are on the second disc, and that, so, as it's a 7-part story, so, yeah. Try and put that back in there. Yeah, I mean, considering it's John Pertwee's second outing as the Doctor, it's absolutely phenomenal how sort of confident and how he just sort of walks into a room and just sort of owns the scenes that he's in, and definitely has a presence. And basically I think that's due to the fact that he's a pretty good or very good actor, as well as the fact that he's pretty tall as well, so that probably helps as well. Liz Shaw's really cool as well, or the actress who plays Liz Shaw. However, she doesn't get too much to do. However, when she does have sort of good, does have scenes with the Doctor, she's really good, and that, like, that dynamic and chemistry and rapport and relationship is really good as well. Considering it's only her second outing as well as John Pertwee's, and that, it just feels like John Pertwee's been doing the role for quite a few years already, even though this is clearly his second outing. And that, I really like the fact that with the Silurians' debut story, which is this episode, they very much sort of tease the Silurians throughout the first 2 parts. We see sketches of them, and we see point of view shots from the Silurian, which I love. However, we never really see them up until the cliffhanger to part 3, which is just probably the best cliffhanger of this sort of serial, I guess. I did, after watching it just now, before I recorded this video, I did, however, get a little bit bored, sort of part 5 and 6, I guess, and that, as it does drag a little bit, but not that much, not, you know, like a lot or anything. I do really like the dinosaur type creature as well, which is very much sort of shown early on in the episode, almost as a replacement to the Silurian, I guess, sort of up until the point when obviously the Silurian's revealed and seen and that. But however, it does kind of annoy me that after we've sort of seen the big dinosaur in the first sort of episode or 2, it sort of pretty much gets sort of pushed to the back of the story, and that the cave setting of the cave is really cool, really atmospheric and dark, and that I like how as well when there's that epidemic towards the latter end of the story, it very much has this sort of big scale sort of to it, almost more so than say something like the Battle of Ranskoor, of course, where that beam just hit the Earth and nothing even really happened, and that. Whereas with this, we get told about the epidemic, we see how it affects one person, and then we see how it affects a bunch of people down in London and that. So yeah, there's quite a few shots and or bits where, yeah, they're either in the countryside or they're in maybe a city or something. You know, there's quite a few different places they go to, like a barn, they go to a cottage. They mainly are either in the scientific laboratory type place or the caves. So, but you've got like 4 or 5 different locations just off that, and yeah, UNIT are obviously in this story, which makes sense considering it's John Pertwee we're on about, and his era is very much the UNIT Earthbound sort of era, and instead of a typical sort of base under siege, or sort of not even that, but your typical sort of invasion story. This one almost very much subverts your expectations and almost goes in a completely different direction, where the Silurians aren't just aliens, but they're almost sort of the original indigenous species to Earth. And I find that fascinating, that they were here before humans and man, but then because of this sort of catastrophe they thought was coming, which was the moon, they went into hibernation, man evolved, they wake up, and then to find the Earth being inhabited by, us lot. And I love how the Silurians mirror us, and that it's not just black and white. It's not just every Silurian's a bad guy, or every Silurian's good. There is a mix and match of both, like there is on the human side of the sort of story as well. And I'm surprised they haven't come back in series 11 or series 12, considering Chris Chibnall's very big on the whole sort of, human bad guy sort of thing, or whatever, or humans being bad and that. So I think they'd be really good to come up against the 13th Doctor as well. However, I do really like the design here. Not as much, nowhere near... it's nowhere near that good in the new series, but it's much better here. And that the design, however, it does look quite obviously sort of like, just a bloke in a rubber mask and that. But it's really cool though. It's well designed. It's really cool. I love the sort of claw hands they have, and some of the scales and sort of bumps in the back and spine of the costume as well. They added quite a few neat little details, as well as that sort of red glowing like sphere on top of the heads where it emanates red usually, and then they're attacking someone as well. It's as a story, first Doctor Who story, classic series Doctor Who story, I think it's quite noticeable maybe, that it's got its own sort of very distinct soundtrack, and that I often forget to talk about Doctor Who and or music in Doctor Who, should I say. But yeah, I mean, mostly in the classic series, and here is no exception really, a lot of the music is very ear-piercing to me and that, and is quite sort of, it kind of grates on my ears. However, this did do that from time to time. However, I just wanted to mention that it does have a very distinct feel and a soundtrack to it, basically, this story, as the Silurians are moving around, and there's that high-pitched sort of thing, noise and that. And it's quite grim and kind of, for lack of a better term, depressing how technically in this story the Doctor loses. The Doctor doesn't win what he's trying to do and that here, and that, he's trying to have the Silurians and the humans share the Earth, but by the end, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the story, but the Brigadier ends up bombing the whole cave, and so the Silurians are trapped down there, so they're either going to die, well, yeah, they're eventually going to die, and that, so it's quite cruel, very depressing, quite honestly, that whole race end up dying and that. So, but yeah, I mean, there's also the sort of very visually striking disease sort of thing, which is quite repulsive. Almost kind of reminds me of some of the makeup used, or what might have been used later on for Zygon makeup. But yeah, like all the red splotches on the face and that. It's very eerie and unnerving to see that. And then the ministry head person of the scientific research facility place in the cave that they built into the cave. I think the actor who plays him, he is same actor who plays Nyder as well in Genesis of the Daleks, I'm sure of that. I don't know the actor's name, but he's really good in this as well as a supporting character, because he's quite sort of sort of forceful and that, and very stubborn, definitely. And that's another thing, that the Doctor and the Brigadier very much butt heads in this story and that, and I really like that. And I really like the beginning sort of part, and one of the lines in the beginning where the Doctor, one of the people's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do with this equipment? Are you trying to break it or something? scientific equipment that costs like £500 or £1,000 or whatever, and he's like, well, it's not worth 1,000 pins if it doesn't work, you know, which I thought was really funny, and that, but yeah, I'd give Doctor Who and the Silurians a well-earned 10 out of 10. It's a really good, really strong episode with this sort of moral dilemma of, like, you know, this species that's almost mirrors human, and that, and in that sense, that's kind of the problem, you know, they're both the best of and the worst of humanity, the Silurians, you know, like that one Silurian leader who, you know, ends up killing, that one Silurian dude who ends up killing the Silurian leader and that, because, he clearly thought he was weak because he showed empathy to the humans and that and wanted to share the planet. But yeah, I'd give Doctor Who and the Silurians a well-earned 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching, comment, rate and subscribe.